A joke? Well, I'll try to be detailed. What should I do? Dated for a number of years prior to being married for 2 years. Had a wonderful relationship overall during this time, deeply in love. Now, I've had a terrible habit for the last 10 or so years. For the past 10 years, I have battled with smoking sometimes more, sometimes less. I'm a somewhat intelligent man that plays soccer at a high level. However, I have had difficulty eradicating the issue from my life. That being said, I began smoking again around a year ago on a more regular basis. About 3 months passed, and it became into a bad habit. During the course of those 3 months, my wife and I became somewhat estranged in the process. We started to spend less time together because I would go out with friends a lot, smoke, and other vices. After the honeymoon period ended, she began to feel aloof, at least from me. That is to say, I felt that I wasn't there for her as much as I should have been. Wasn't doing my share of the household responsibilities or contributing emotionally to the marriage. She now has a new job and a bond with her coworker with whom she volunteered and hopes to eventually land a position at because they have a lot in common during that same 3-month time. Both of them have a strong passion for their jobs and everything associated to them. At some point over the first 3 months, they will both teach fitness. She told me straight out that she was seeing this guy inappropriately. At first, it was just that they got along great. It was a pleasure to speak with on both ends. However, it soon progressed to her opening up to him and expressing her feelings, etc. items that she would typically discuss with her spouse. To put it another way, they began to get closer. And that's when it began, but she told me at the time that it was wrong and that she didn't want to carry on. Declared it ended, etc. that their behavior would be exclusively professional. I felt that I could believe her when she said it was finished, so I accepted it and gave her the benefit of the doubt. She explained at the time that the only reason it happened was that we hadn't been as close lately. Although, since I smoked too much, smoking was ultimately my fault, I suppose I bear some of the guilt. 9 months have passed since then, and I'm still having trouble with my smoking addiction. Our connection hasn't been fantastic over the past year, it goes up and down, but it's there. I had attempted to control the unintended consequences of my habit when she first told me about that guy, at the beginning of our growing distance from one another. In other words, I discovered that smoking could lead to complacency and laziness even if I haven't kicked the habit. I made a conscious effort to improve as a husband. I would, however, try to be as emotionally accessible as I could, pay attention to her. I would attempt to be there for her or put in extra effort around the house. It wasn't flawless, yes. Undoubtedly, there were certain faults, but in all honesty, compared to the first 3 months, it was better. In terms of my smoking the last 2 months have been very difficult. About a month ago, she had dropped the hammer, telling me that she didn't want to support me any longer and that she was going to separate if I didn't look into that kind of stuff. This, in my opinion, was just. I felt so horrible about this. I was so ashamed of who I'd become. She'd started to open up about how my addiction was affecting her over the last 6 months. That she was deeply offended and cold. That I've been an unsatisfactory husband, etc. I would respond with guilt and shame. I love you and I'm very sorry. I would make an effort to control it or improve as a guy for her. Occasionally, with remarkable results. Occasionally with middling results. God understands that I'm not flawless. That being said, that is how the last 6 months have gone. The previous 2 have been hammered down. She was no longer interested in sleeping with me and was generally emotionally distant from me, unwilling to respond to me despite my best efforts to adore her. She has effectively been chilly for the past 2 months, even if I have tried to be kind or caring. In the meanwhile, I began a program that demands complete transparency and accountability to your loved ones. The harm you've brought about. I have been going through the motions for the past 2 months of acknowledging my faults, admitting I have a problem, and apologizing repeatedly for the damage I caused. My wife has been so hurt, or we are so far apart, etc., that I could accept this, but I have received very little response from her, and believed it to be just a portion of the recovery process. She had the right to communicate her hurt to me and to keep her distance until she felt comfortable enough to trust me once more. I accidentally learned this week that she and her coworker had dated for a considerable amount of time. Not merely a kiss. Reluctantly but guiltily, she told me about it one night 2 months ago while they were together at his apartment. As I questioned her more and she opened up to me more, we were both sobbing a lot. She told me that, as it turned out, they had maintained their friendship and relationship all along or had resumed it after a brief break after the initial instance. They would go out to bars, grab coffee or take walks together, hang out at his apartment, and so on. Formally, they had a single romantic encounter, but they have also held hands, hugged, snuggled, held each other close, and so on. On a sentimental level, she claimed that because they have grown to care deeply for one another and develop romantic feelings for one another, their relationship is difficult. They are aware of each other's feelings, have discussed this with one another, etc. According to her, things have only gotten worse in the past 3 months. However, I have no doubt that she has stayed friends with him from the beginning. I'm hurt, really hurt. We frequently talked about how being faithful to one another is the last thing we would ever do. That was something I meant business. I don't want to come across as conceited, but I'm a clever guy with excellent looks who, aside from a smoking addiction that I'm working to kick, has it together. I enjoy hanging out with girls, and I'll be attending a prestigious law school the next year. I don't find it difficult to chat to girls. The point is, even though I had plenty of opportunities to cheat, I never did. I hardly ever talk to girls, unless they are my sisters or close friends. I walk away if I have any inkling that a girl might be into me or the other way around. Despite my flaws, I never would cheat. Never desired to. I had no desire to be that guy. I promised myself that I would never, ever cheat. The cardinal rule was that. She said the same thing, and we both agreed on how important that is and how we would part ways. How our wonderful romance would fall apart, should that ever occur. We have spoken for a few days now. From her point of view, the events make her feel horrible. She claims it's unbelievable that she did it and that it was incorrect. She adds that the W was the only reason it occurred. I smoke, that it was because we had not been in contact for a year. To some extent, I can accept that. I acknowledge that I am not an angel, that I have a problem, that I have harmed her, and that I must change. I accept and am aware of that. Does that, however, mean that our relationship is fine? Obviously not. Does it, however, make sense? Or pardon it, stated differently, are we both in equal error here? Or is what we did any different? She describes it as though I've been unfaithful to her for the past year by smoking. That I would rather not be there for her. She began looking for fulfillment elsewhere as a result. I can accept that, but I also consider and wonder how many times over the last year I've tried to encourage her, be there for her, and spend enjoyable evenings with her. When I think of the last 2 months since she put down the hammer, threatening to leave and withholding any physical and emotional closeness until I get better, I remember cuddling her and listening only to get the cold shoulder. I can't help but believe that a big part of the reason I felt like such a jerk and blamed myself for everything that went wrong in our relationship was also because she had been continuing her relationship with that guy. Given that she had been hiding this from me the entire time, how could we ever hope to mend our relationship? And how much of the reason we hadn't been in touch this past year wasn't her fault? Given that she was finding fulfillment elsewhere, how could we not? I have no idea what to do. She desires to speak with MC and resolve this, though I can't help but feel like something is amiss. They did more than enough emotionally and sufficiently enough physically, even though I know she didn't sleep with him. Additionally, for some time. She has been lying about it the entire time, especially in the last 2 months since their romantic date. She widened the gap and assigned more responsibility. It enraged me more than I can control. Here, via my addiction recovery, we are attempting to mend our relationship. It's a process that demands complete transparency and accountability from both sides, yet she's continuing this connection while placing more and more blame on me for our distance, rejecting my attempts at closeness, affection, and support throughout. I apologize under the guise that I'm to blame and we're too shattered. She wants to re-establish our marriage, acquire MC, and move in one by one. We sort of screwed up, but we got over it and moved on. I should also mention that as soon as I learned about it, her tone shifted. The day I learned of it, she was like, let's get MC and move on. We both messed up. In contrast, she had been discussing her possible departure from me just the day before, a few hours before I even learned of it, describing her conversations with acquaintances who were having marital issues. One persevered and is now content. The other went and hasn't been content since. Additionally, that she is unsure on what to do. Before I discovered out, this kind of conversation had been going on for a few months. She had been threatening to leave and had been spilling the beans on me. And everything changes once I learn the truth. Her current goal is to resolve the issue and move on. She claims that everything was an error and that our troubles were the only reason it occurred. Aside from that, she kept seeing that guy after they started dating. However, she says, only from a professional standpoint. Moreover, she is going to begin a job that would place her under his supervision. She will therefore see him daily. I'm really burned within by this. I feel like an idiot. This guy flirts with my wife and develops an emotional bond with her. And now she's going to agree to take a job with him. Although she has been trying to get this position for about a year and only got a do of those connections, she states that she would be willing to shift careers. I am aware of the significance this piece holds for her. Having volunteered her way into it for the last 7 years at school, she will now be working with this guy. The idea of that is too much for me. However, I also find it unbearable to consider forcing her to give up on the profession she genuinely enjoys doing. I have no idea what to do. Although I am aware that they did not have a sexual relationship, for the past year he has essentially been her emotional companion, and I have been the one who has been holding her back. I am aware of my shortcomings and the fact that I smoke, which is something I genuinely want to change. However, I would never, ever betray her. Yes, I have occasionally been a bad spouse, but I have never once attempted to harm her, despite the fact that I did. Furthermore, I never went out with another woman, even in the moments when we were geographically and emotionally apart. What are your thoughts, guys? We are both equally guilty. Is what we did very much the same? Must I? Can she ever earn my trust again? I'm quite lost here, so any advice, experiences, or anything else would be highly appreciated. After a month. We've been trying to resolve it ever since. I no longer smoke, now 3 weeks clear. Was quite difficult, but I'm now clear. I'm certain that I would never want to return to that way of life. Now that she had some clarity, she apologized very deeply, declared her undying love for me, said it was all a mistake because we grew apart, and so on. She insisted that it was an intense kiss that never lasted more than one. You would say, I suppose. She had never lied to me or done anything to hurt me, so I wasn't sure if I should trust her, but she appeared really interested in getting back to our happy place. At that moment, we both agreed that we wanted to give our marriage our whole focus. We wanted to devote our all to this relationship, forgive one another, and never harm each other again. Indeed, we did. As mentioned, I wanted and needed to give up smoking 100% and provide my fair bit to the relationship with her, including all of that, housework, consideration, romance, giving everything your all, etc. I asked her to completely stop communicating with him, and she complied. She has also been working hard on our relationship over the past several weeks, so things seem to be going well ever since. We were both feeling like we were really moving forward, and we had been having a great time together. We were having a terrific time together, even though we were both still working on moving past the past. Then, when I looked up our phone bill history today, I saw that she has kept in touch with him ever since we both acknowledged our shortcomings in this marriage and renewed our commitment to seeing it work. In particular, she has spoken with him for 6 hours on the phone and sent him almost 12,000 texts during the last 3 weeks. She told me over and over that they hadn't communicated since that day of our recommitment, and each time I believed her, so I was shocked. Her justification was that he was going through a terrible personal situation and that he had supported her during a difficult period in our relationship that had been deteriorating over the previous year, because she believed she owed him assistance. Don't worry, I know this is all bullshit. The first time, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. Now, credibility is completely gone. And now, let's see where you fit in. I have no idea what to do. Problem 1. As if she's not going to sleep in my room until I make up my mind on what to do next. This is what I have. Even though you guys may think I'm crazy, I really do believe her. As for her claims that they never slept together and that this was all just an emotional affair, I believe her, or at least I'm not positive she's lying. She acknowledges that they have kissed once, but that is all. As I mentioned earlier, I'm not sure if that is true, and I know she has been lying the entire time, but something tells me this could be more of an emotional thing. I'm done here, assuming they slept together. If she has slept with him, I can't stay in this relationship. But maybe I could, I believe, and only if a number of additional requirements were satisfied. If this has all been an emotional matter, consider the potential that we can yet rescue this. To trust her would need a lot, and total control would be necessary. Awareness of all she does. Calls, texts, and emails have been exchanged for a while, but if the most of the exchange has been emotional rather than sexual in nature, I believe there is still hope for a resolution. My question is this: if she had been truthful and hadn't slept with him, does she still not love him? If not, perhaps we might work things out in the future. How do you feel? Is it wise to get a lie detector test performed? Any past encounters with them? Are there any other ideas about how I should handle her? The other man, issue 2. I had avoided contacting him in any way up until now. I am aware of his identity and the location of his previous employment. All I have to go on is his number. Previously, when we initially made a commitment again, I thought I would exclude him, thinking he was no longer a part of our lives. I could live with myself now that I hadn't confronted him then. For as long as my spouse didn't get in touch with him either, we considered him deceased. However, this recent event has changed that. I think I should speak with him. More importantly, I keep thinking about setting up a meeting with him. I think I would make use of the following excuse. I would inform him that although I am aware that there was previously a problem between us, my wife and I are dedicated to healing from this, and part of that process includes finding closure with him. Since I know that you two are friends, I just wanted to say hello and that we should reestablish the appropriate boundaries in this situation. I will work on the actual language, don't worry, but I know what it should say. I would politely request a cup of coffee so that we could resolve this and move on. For that kind of thing, I can speak clearly and persuasively when needed. I would now meet up with him wearing my longs, providing he approves. Inside the fluffy winter soccer coat, unnoticeable to others. My baseball bat would be tastefully suspended from a specially designed baseball hanging hook. I'll work with my tailor to iron out the details. However, there's anything that essentially permits the bat to reside inside my clothing. I would quickly take off said bat and give him a good thrashing when we finally meet and get close enough. I want to break a couple ribs, but I don't want to kill him or give him any serious harm. Numerous bruises and other injuries, so he learns to never get in touch with her or tamper with a married woman ever again. Even yet, I still want to use a bat to X his ribs. I am aware that it isn't the answer. I'll rephrase my question now. How should I treat him, in your opinion? Do I have to expose him? particularly considering that he was a supervisor overseeing my spouse. Therefore, in a position of authority, especially since I detest the guy and I need it to stop because they have maintained communication. What is the process for outing him? Banner within his fitness center. Inform every teacher. Tell the principal, please. Without him, the issue is that it exposes her, and despite my anger, I don't want her to be pulled through the muck. I'm hopeful that this will all work out for the better for us. Her occupation. In my location, finding a teaching position is almost unattainable, and the only reason she received it was because string pulled, of which the arm was a part. Thus, yes, intricate and challenging. I find it incomprehensible that she felt compelled to ruin so much on so many levels. How about suggestions on what I should do regarding my wife? A lie detector. Let her go. Accept her. And not sure. The other man is single. But what can be done to him if the principal finds out? In general, is this not a private matter? Do cheaters lose their jobs? Yes, she completed her practicum at his school, taking his class under his supervision. That, I assume, provides an answer to the previous query. If the WS and AP don't collaborate, I imagine he would face consequences for meddling with a student teacher under his supervision. Did the AP face professional reprimands or perhaps termination? What about the fact that the specifics of this relationship are unknown to me? I'm aware that they communicate frequently, hours at a time over the phone and thousands of texts, but I'm not sure how much time they spend together alone. She has acknowledged that they had a romantic relationship, which I am aware of, but she maintains that nothing physical occurred. To find out how serious this is, should I first have a lie detector test performed, or do I already know enough to declare this to be an affair and to be outed? This is the hardest scenario I have ever encountered, man. I will not remove him. Indeed, it would be detrimental to him, but it would also be detrimental to my wife, perhaps much more so. The school district slandering my wife's infidelity seems pointless to me. I might very well do this if I didn't want to keep this marriage together. But because I do, this is not an option. I'm not going to baseball bat the arm. Instead, I shall address it. As much as I would like to, but tell him what harm he is doing, that we are devoted to one another, to back off, that she is mine, and that I ask that you stop talking to her. I'm aware that he might not care or that he might take it personally. In either case, there is no harm. If he is human at all, I believe that recognizing the human side of his acts must have some effect. If not, avoid him. We spoke for hours today once more, and I know that this was the last time my wife said it. However, she wants our relationship to succeed and last. She is aware of how deeply she has wounded me, as am I. But she committed to doing whatever it takes, and we both want this to work. She thus totally consented to the requirements I set in order for this to have a shot. I shall thus exercise caution and watch to see if she lives up to them. To ascertain whether she was telling the truth when she said they didn't sleep together, the criteria included a lie detector test. That's all. It was an emotional affair, and are there any other specifics I should inquire about? Complete and total disclosure of phone numbers, emails, and other correspondence, etc. Her phone record revealed this to me, so she knows it's hard to disguise. Our financial condition is closely watched, and she has given me all of her passwords and other personal information. She also hasn't had the chance to obtain a hidden phone. I shall, however, keep a tight eye on this issue. Look, no interaction. She consented to compose a letter tonight, which I will proofread and co-write. She also committed to not doing any work with him. She knows there are no more opportunities to make amends in this. If she ever gets back in touch with him, I'm leaving. We're also getting MC, truly beginning as soon as possible. We genuinely care about one another and want things to work. She and I both made mistakes last year. We want to move on and resume our wonderful friendship. I thus hope her tale is true. Test for lying. She also abides by the other commitments. Let's see. I'm going to be cautious for now. Remarks. The only way your current strategy will succeed is if your wife agrees to it. Just like I said, there's a very good chance your wife will change her mind. You might not agree with me. She has made one unsuccessful attempt to kick her addiction. You have been duped by her all along. She first said she was reaching out to support him during a difficult time. 6 hours and thousands of texts later. That is a difficult area. She has now acknowledged her feelings for him. Get ready for the "I'm not in love with you, even if I adore you." You should get ready for her to confess to loving the other man. Do you know which SMS she sent? Opus answers, I'm not sure if she will change her mind. Though I know I've told her quite plainly that she will if she does. I sincerely hope she doesn't. I'm heading out. Here's all I can do. If, God forbid, she gets in touch with him, I will not back down. I have informed her that she needs to get a lie detector test right away to confirm her account thus far and that it wasn't a sexual affair. We will follow up in about 6 months to make sure contact has remained broken. I will keep a close eye on things. I have phone records, and I will get keylogger. However, I know she can still get around that. She has consented to these procedures, so that's about as thorough as I can imagine, but I need your caution anyway. I sincerely pray that she is not in love with him, but I also don't want to be too innocent and accept that it might be the case. It doesn't excuse her infidelity, of course, even though I am aware that I am mostly responsible for the problems in our marriage. Thus, I'm hoping that we will now rekindle our love. Regardless of what transpired between him and the other man, we still love each other very much. So whether it's love or not, if she remains committed to dump him completely, we can still move forward. All that has to be asked is, can she? She is aware that I will go if she falters. I had never threatened her with that before, so she was unaware of it. Before, though, I was unaware that she had been lying about this the entire time. All I can hope for is that she realizes how serious this is and breaks up with him. All I can hope is that the fear of losing me will be enough to overcome her addiction to the other man. In the end, she will lose if it isn't. She knows that I'm a better man than the other man. We had our first, ostensibly, genuine, 100% honest conversation yesterday. I informed her the day before that I thought she wasn't being completely honest, and she acknowledged that she wasn't. I advised her to gather her thoughts and memories and to come back the following day if she truly wanted to save the marriage. She has to give me a complete and accurate description of everything that happened yesterday. I was very clear in saying that this was her last opportunity to be completely honest with me. I informed her that although I am aware that she has continued to lie, this was her last opportunity to tell the truth and that none more would be available. I am aware that the discussion up to this point has been akin to rug sweeping and trickle-truthing. She acknowledged this as well. In order to prevent her from being able to rug sweep, I also informed her that following her final opportunity to fully reveal, we would be getting a polygraph test to confirm her statement. She voluntarily consented to everything and stated that she wanted to be honest so that we could move on. It was now time to come clean in all the facts. In summary, all was as I had previously understood. Sentimental relationship. Shown affectionate feelings. Not her, though. She never told him she loved him. She just claimed she cared for him. To me, it's all just semantics. They are in love. Very long texts that are consistent, but not too many in-person meetings. With a few phone calls and occasional in-person meetings, it was primarily texting. The element that really hit home for me was that, despite her earlier claim that they had only ever kissed once during a lengthy period of time, it turned out to be much more. She claimed that as soon as they reached the enjoyable portion, she stopped crying and lost all understanding of how she had arrived at that point. I've never been more sad in my life than I am now that I lost my crap. Furious beyond anything I had ever experienced, I stormed out of the house right away and walked for a couple of hours. Really, it was an odd experience, as opposed to earlier when I thought that was the case. With just a kiss. In essence, I was depressed. I would normally characterize it as hurtful and terribly depressing. Though not solely depressing, it dominated the feelings. I was angry this time instead of depressed. I was furious. I wanted to make a mistake, so I had the other man's number with me on this walk. I made the decision that I had to give him a call and advise him to keep his distance from my wife. I threatened to expose him to everyone he knew if he persisted, particularly his place of employment, where he was in a position of leadership and met my wife. I went on to say that I would also take up the personal pastime of ruining his life. All of this was done via text since he abruptly hung up when I called him to introduce myself and threatened to ruin him if he didn't keep away from my wife. Despite the fact that it was really dangerous, I felt a little better after this. But I felt like I had to say what I had to say and that he had to understand. An hour later, he texted me back, saying he would be open to a polite conversation if I stopped making threats from high school. I just replied, "Please stay away. I mean what I say. Stop contacting us." In response, he threatened to expose him, saying that doing so would be slandering his reputation. I repeated to stay away and to cease contacting me, saying that was only the case if someone spreads lies rather than the truth. Again, he said, "I better keep this information to myself or it will be considered character assassination. Court case, etc." I erased our conversation and disregarded him, and returned to my spouse. We chatted further, me ranting about how angry, hurt, deceived, furious, etc. I was. Her sobbing, distressed, repeated "I'm sorry, and I'll do anything." She replied, "That's all there is to divulge." When I inquired if there was anything more, she had best make sure she is, since this is her one and only chance to come clean. I said again. She made sure she was. After I had calmed myself, I spoke to her logically a few hours later. I was no longer furious, and my normal anger and hurt were beginning to take precedence over my irrational emotions. I know that I still want to talk to her about wanting to work on this marriage and move on. After we talked about rectifying this and me laying out what she needed to do going forward and what would happen if she faltered in the slightest, she was still groveling and so on. We cuddled up in bed together. About the last part, some people might think I'm crazy for holding her close just a few hours after the revelation. However, the night was such a whirlwind of contradictory feelings. In addition to my uncontrollable rage, I was also deeply hurt. In addition, though, I secretly yearned for and loved my wife. I missed the great relationship we previously had, which was the best thing in the world. She is missed. The fact that I am hurting is what's wrong. It is my natural desire for solace and comfort. and my wife is the one who has wired my entire being to receive that. So even though she was the one who harmed me, I kind of needed her to hold me. However, the sensation and embrace only lasts until the hurt and fury resurface, at which point I'm unable to look at her. This cycle is an odd mixture of feelings. I felt the hurt and rage surge through me once more. Line movies non-stop. I informed her as she was leaving for work that I was sure he would get in touch with her today, but she had to make sure she never replied to him and to let me know when he did. I made it apparent that she would need to pass this test, which is only one of many necessary steps, in order for us to remain together. She replied that she understood him when he texted her about an hour later. She text messaged me right away to let me know what happened. I then texted the right away and told them to just stop getting in touch with us, that it has concluded, to leave us alone and move on. He told me that he needed to talk to her about the duck, which was irrelevant. Yes, friend, I agree that it's unsettling that I'm reading her texts. I'm not going to text him back. I've probably given him too much satisfaction and too much time of day. As it is, I understand why some advise against doing this. I don't think I regret it, but, at the same moment, it's imperative that he understands the meaning behind my statements. In addition, my wife didn't respond to his text at first, but I did right away, which hopefully shows that she's fully on board with me and that her relationship with D-Bag is finished, both to me and to the If he tries to get in touch with us again, we will never reply. We're actually going to alter our statistics today to exclude that possibility. That puts us in that situation. My wife is a broken woman who cries and apologizes all the time. I'm angry, hurt, and trying to figure everything out. She seems to have told me the truth now. But because I am aware that I shouldn't act naively in this situation, I am continuing with the polygraph. I can't threaten anything and then back out of it. Both I and she need to know that I take this seriously and that she is telling the truth. We'll wait to hear from the polygraph. I'm out if that proves she was lying. Despite her agreement to the exam and knowledge that it will occur prior to her final opportunity for complete disclosure, I remain optimistic. I have informed her of this, and should the polygraph require it, I will depart. I'm out if she ever gets in touch with him again. I shall do as I have instructed her, if any of these two scenarios materializes. Actually, I'll do two things. I'm going to leave her, but before I do, I'll explain to everyone why I'm doing it, including our friends and family. All of them. I warned her this so she had best learn to duck or face being alone herself and serious harm to her reputation. In addition to meeting those two requirements, a satisfactory polygraph test and NC, for the foreseeable future, or however long it takes, she needs to demonstrate to me that she is always completely honest and transparent. I turned down her offer to hand up her phone in order to prove it to me because I already had the phone records. Like a hawk, I'm keeping an eye on texts and calls. Today, I'm going to install Keylogger and see how it works. That puts us in that situation. In the upcoming days, we will also be contacting the MC so that we can begin sorting through this. I have never had an encounter as unpleasant as this one. You are welcome to criticize my approach, but I believe I took the necessary steps to put an end to the affair and create the opportunity for our marriage to be saved. She has all the power, so I'll wait to see what her actions tell me. All is well thus far, but I won't be gullible and won't take this lightly. It needs to be demonstrated over time with consistent behavior. Playing good cops is one area of ambiguity for me in terms of how to are my thoughts. Bad cop. NC, openness, polygraph, and extreme caution in this aspect. I want to care for her and spend time with her at the same time, but not too much or too far away. My hypothesis is that she moved on to another guy since our marriage fell apart somewhere along the road this past year. Now that he is no longer in the picture, I want our love to take over and fully fill our life, leaving no room for the need or desire to look for another man. Does this make sense? Is showing her compassion encouraging a relapse? My response: sincerely, I don't know of anyone who has reconciled with their partner. However, you cannot win back your lover while they remain in your life. You need to cut that individual out of your life permanently. You can always help this channel by clicking the subscribe button if you enjoy this story. It would mean a lot.